Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. For those that are watching the YouTube channel, you will see I've got Mr. Vic here in house. This is the first time I've had a one-question guest in studio with me. Why? Because this is the first time I've had a place for a guest to come. Every other person has come on via just streaming services, using a thing called Riverside, which streams 4K, unlike those other ones that don't do that. So I've always done that, but I've always wanted to have somebody in studio, person to person. We got 2 cameras, which I've never done that before. This is my setup normally, actually, for those that have never listened. Michaela and I, my wife, we have a podcast called Choosing Us. And Choosing Us, this is the setup that we have for Choosing Us. So I'm very familiar with doing 2 people in one room, since Michaela and I do episodes every week as well. But pretty sweet. We have Vic Fralof in on the Choosing Us. I'm saying things I'm all messed up because I've got another person in the studio with me. The Hard Choice, one question. This is fantastic. This is Vic's actual first experience. I don't think he's ever listened to my podcast before. Have you?
I have listened to your podcast.
Have you listened to any of the one questions?
I don't remember if I have.
All right. So we're going to hit him side face.
Cool. Do it.
It's going to be a good time. So a little bit about Vic. Vic and I have a fairly new relationship. 3 or 4 months.
That's true.
And that's about it. We met in a networking group. Both of our companies function exclusively on networking. And so we mostly and primarily market via networking, organic growth. And so we met at a men's group, which was my first couple times going to that style of group, which was a cool experience. And then we joined forces. We've started in the previous episode, I mentioned that we have a new company called Virad. This is my partner in Virad.
Hello.
And he's also a mindset coach. That is his primary business and has been for a good number of years. In fact, he was trained with my trainer. So he's like a dad level, I guess, to where I'm at. He's trained in the same capacity I am, many years more than me, which is super cool. That means we go down the rabbit hole a lot.
Fun ways too.
On a lot of conversations. So Vic, welcome to the one question.
Thank you for having me. And also, congratulations on the first of many to come.
Yeah, the new studio space, the new lighting. It took a minute to figure that out. Color science is a real thing. The color chemistries. Fun fact, for those watching the episode, the colors behind me are actually not purple. They're actually like magenta/pink. But on a brown board at this Kelvin on a camera, it translates to a bluish purple.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Pretty wild.
Science.
But the question that I wanted to bring to the awareness of the listener and to my audience is mindset. That is your specialty. That's your world revolves. This is the way you naturally think, and it's the way I naturally think as well. How has mindset changed, or training your mindset, I should say, and reprogramming the programs that you have running natively? How has going through that transition affected your world? That's a loaded question.
It is, because you can go with so many different layers and perspectives. That's mindset at the very beginning is perspective. Do you look at life through the lens of anger, sadness, trauma, pain? Because all those will contribute to your belief system, how you navigate, how you react, how you engage with anybody or anything in your worldview. So the deeper I've dove, whatever the past tense on that one and the participle form is, the more I've gone deeper into the world of mindset, the more I began to question really the basic simple things that I say, believe, or act upon. Because I start to question, am I doing this out of a negative or a positive? Am I engaging in the right perspective? Do I even have the right perspective? Do I even know the right perspective to have in this situation? And then I start really just questioning, okay, what's my core belief around this? Even if I were to remove all perceptions and look at it from just capital T truth, what's my belief? And then I have to start restructuring all my reactions, engagements, my terminology, the words that I use that shape my worldview. And so you start realizing, oh, I create the world that I have right now that I'm experiencing because I chose somewhere down the line to believe some little form of a belief. And that became the program that I operate my life off of, which means I need to go back and challenge everything. So the deeper you dive into the world of mindset, the more you start challenging every single instance and every single moment to see whether or not you have the correct perspective.
Right. He mentioned something that I've actually started adopting. I don't know if he's caught on to it. He probably has. He pays attention to the little details. He said capital T truth.
Mm-hmm.
And in our world, your world, my world, we have little T truth.
Correct.
Little T truth is what is truth to you and what you accept to be truth. Big T truth is the actual truth, regardless of perception, regardless of ideals or ideologies or any belief you may have. It is the simple, plain fact. And those facts are not necessarily facts either. Truth is not necessarily truth, and knowledge is not necessarily knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is only perceived in a fashion to which it's been received. I can say I have a knowledge of flipping a light switch. If I flip the light switch, the lights will turn on. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've ever had it to where the lights didn't turn on.
Many times.
I've had that. The power didn't work. Somebody broke the breaker. Power didn't work on. It didn't work. Something happened. And it is, in a small sense, a world shifter.
Mm-hmm.
When you flip that switch, because you know when you flip the switch, the lights turn on. And you flip it and it doesn't turn on, you are taken back and startled.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very small example of little T truth versus big T truth. Big T truth is the light switch only turns on when there is power going to the switch.
Correct.
But when there's not power to the switch, it won't turn on. But in my world, you flip the light switch, a switch in my house that I know works, right? I'm not in just some space that I don't know if there's power on. Then I question if I'm in a place, oh, is the power on? That's like my first question.
Mm-hmm.
I walk into a vacant house. Is the power on? The reason you're doing that is you're checking to confirm if your beliefs will hold true in that space or not.
Yep.
And it's that question to which you just referred, question everything. Mm-hmm. Walking into a space you don't know, a vacant house, a vacant building, say you're looking to rent a home or buy a house or real estate property and the lights are all off. You walk in, oh, is the power on? Yeah, the power's on. Okay, cool. I can flip the light switch. It's going to work. The power's not on. Okay. My belief that when I flip this, it's going to turn on is now null and void. I now know that it will do nothing. You must alter your reality based off the question asked.
Mm-hmm. My favorite example is that movie with Nicolas Cage where they steal the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, yeah. Treasure.
National Treasure?
National Treasure.
Okay. You've got the Benjamin Franklin glasses, and they're different colors, different sizes, and different thicknesses. And he's looking at the back of the Declaration, and he's seeing different things because he's switching through all the lenses. That's how you have to look at life. You can't just stick with one lens and say, this is how I see the world is perfect. No, you got to start toggling through it all. See what colors, what shades, what thicknesses you need to look at in order to really just see it all. And that's how when you start questioning, you're looking through the different lenses. Okay, I turn the light switch on. All right, flip it, lights don't go on. You start panicking. That's the natural response most people have is they start panicking. Oh, shit, what happened? You don't start to consider the other factors of like, okay, maybe the light switch isn't working properly. Maybe mom forgot to pay the bill. Had that happen once. Maybe there's a power outage and one of the breakers down the road went off and you just have power outage in the entire neighborhood. No, you just taking that moment to just challenge it gives you control. And I use control in quotes because it just helps you to, what's the term better? It helps you to engage with the experience that you're having right now more fluidly than just getting all locked up and rigid and stuck and in pain.
Right. I like that. One thing I go to often is the Cartesian logic.
That's a good one.
For those that don't know what Cartesian logic is, it's not well known and it's a really, really obscure way of looking at a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Cartesian logic is looking at the same situation in 4 different directions. That way you are sure to not miss anything.
Yep.
So you ask the question, what happens in my world if this is going to happen? What's going to happen in my world if it does not happen?
Mm-hmm.
What does not happen in my world if it does happen? And what does not happen in my world if it doesn't happen? So you're seeing any given situation, circumstance, whatever in your life from 4 different lenses, 4
Mm-hmm.
different angles. To your case in point, like the Benjamin Franklin glasses,
Mm-hmm.
you are lifting the lenses up and down,
Mm-hmm.
dropping them to see from different perspectives, and you're looking for fact.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for big T truth, regardless of reason, rationale, or limiting belief.
Mm-hmm.
Most people's beliefs are, by their very nature, limiting.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Every single person out there in the world has a limiting belief that they encounter and activate in their common day actions. Guaranteed. And then you start diving deeper into their perspectives and you start realizing, oh, I have a lot of limiting beliefs. When I say, oh, I'm not good at that, or oh, I can't do that, or da-da-da-da, whatever. You start saying these things that you're forming the framework in which you're limited. You're creating your very own shackles by your statements. And your statements are the indicator of what your belief system is. So really pay attention to what you're saying, because you're speaking lowercase t truth into becoming your reality, when you're really searching for capital T truth, which is whatever the capital T truth that you're searching for is.
So what Vic is really relating to, the intro to my podcast talks about the glass ceiling of your own making.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you have this ceiling in your world, the reason why you feel stuck, feel behind, the reason why you have this struggle within is because you have this ceiling that you've made that you can break past. The ceiling is a limiting belief.
Mm-hmm.
It is a structure that you've put in place that you didn't necessarily put there, but you decided that it should be there. Whether your parents installed it,
Mm-hmm.
sibling, teacher, friend, boss, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened in your world that caused you to have a belief about a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think, as most humans, that reward came with hard effort, difficult, arduous effort. So I worked 14, 16, 18, 20 hours in a day. Just in most recent podcast, or 2 episodes ago, whatever it was, I talked about leaving for work at 4 a.m. and getting home at midnight,
Mm-hmm.
20-hour days for months at a time. Well, I would think that would yield fruit. It didn't. In fact, it didn't even increase my pay because I was salary.
But it did increase your frustration.
It increased my frustration and increased an insane amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
You ever have it to where you have this, I'm fed up, I'm done? That's because you have bottled up so much energy in the form of frustration,
Mm-hmm.
because you chose it to be frustration, but it's energy nonetheless that has been housed and totally bottled up,
Mm-hmm.
and then forced to release. And that's what happened to me when I decided to leave the lab. That I had frustration, I had lack of fulfillment. I was doing so much effort for nothing different energetically outside of myself increasing an unresourceful state. He mentioned earlier in this episode having, he didn't use the words, but the words that you hear in this podcast all the time are the resourceful states and unresourceful states. Those energy states that are bringing you resources, happiness, joy, bliss, satisfaction, ecstasy, all these things that level you up, versus the unresourceful states, those things that are a detriment, fear, anger, sadness, depression, anxiety. They don't help you. They don't bring you resources. They actually just spin on a rat wheel, only to cause you even more pain and thought stacking.
Oh, yeah. What are the emotions there for? Has anyone ever asked themselves, why do I have this emotion and I'm responding with it? Because it's a symptom of something that's showing you that you're not in alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Or are in alignment, depends on what the emotion is.
right. But most of the time, it's a misalignment that people experience. You're frustrated at work. Why? Oh, because my boss is a whatever. Okay. But what about your boss are you choosing to focus on? And maybe take it a step further. What about your boss externally is representing or presenting itself as frustration and you're being pissed off? That's really a reflection of what you're feeling inside for something that you either are not or are doing.
Right.
What are you projecting out onto him that's really a you problem inside of you? Okay, answer the question. You say, oh, I'm not aligned. And every time he acts this way, it just shows me more and more I'm not aligned. That's the core root of it. Okay, how do you become aligned in whatever you choose as a career move? Maybe you quit your job. You left the lab. You started engaging in things that were more in alignment with your passions, your purpose.
Right.
And where are you now compared to then and the experience that you're having? 10 times better? 100 times better?
1,000 times better.
There you go.
1,000 times better. And it's awesome to think about the word. People don't dissect. I love etymology. I love root causes of where words come from. And if you look up emotion, that's energy in motion. That's why it says emotion. It stands E as in energy from physics. Energy in motion. And when you have an unresourceful state, you are very much so in motion. There's a lot of stirring of the mind.
Oh, yeah.
It takes, I mean, we've all felt it. We've all felt whether you suffer from depression or you've had bouts of depression. Everybody's experienced it. Everybody's experienced anxiety in some form or another. I personally don't struggle with either of the two, but I've experienced both. And I mentioned thought stacking earlier. They cause thought stacking. And for those that don't know, thought stacking is when you just take a thought and have a thought on the thought and the thought on the thought and the thought on the thought, and you just keep spinning it and keep asking more questions.
Yeah.
It will quite literally drive you insane to the very real statement of insanity if you let it just continue to stack, because our minds are really good at coming up with things. And the more you think of a memory, the more it's a memory of a memory of a memory of a memory. And the farther you get away from big T truth of what actually happened.
Right.
And you start justifying and start coming up with rationale based off of a memory of a memory of a memory, which has now been distorted because our memories are highly flawed.
Oh, yeah.
And as mentioned before in this episode or this podcast, that our brains are fantastic generalizers, distorters, and deleters. It will do that to our liking and our favorability in whichever way that is. And it takes an unreal amount of motion and energy to have an unresourceful side.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so weak. So it consumes large spaces.
Oh, yeah. Also talk about frequency. Energy is also equivalent to frequency. Are you operating at a high frequency, which means your emotional state isn't as tumultuous? Or are you operating at lower frequencies where you've taken up so much bandwidth just to maintain that negative, non-ecological experience that you're having right there? And so you're operating at a lower frequency. All the lesser emotions, anger, sadness, guilt, fear, pain, frustration, all that, those are low frequency, low energy. They consume a lot of your bandwidth. And if you have only so much bandwidth to allocate every day on something or whatever it is that you're focusing on, if you're taking up 80% just with anger, that means you only have 20% to focus on the more important things like fulfillment, happiness, love, things like that. So are you really showing up every day doing what you need to do, what you want to do, when you're letting the lesser emotions take up more space because you're just not letting them process out? You're keeping that energy in motion circulating low down here when all you got to do is say, okay, I just created a little hole. It can flow out. I don't need to consume my thoughts or energy with that anymore. I can just focus on this stuff here.
And let the energy and motion flow out. Motion right on out. We're wrapping up to the end of this episode. I try and keep these one questions about 20 minutes. And what is one thing, one nugget that comes to mind, first thing that comes to mind, because it'll naturally be the most important, that somebody needs to hear? What is the first thing that comes to mind, a nugget that somebody can take away to increase the probability of having a more efficient mindset? Or more resourceful mindset, I should say.
What you think is, meaning what you focus on, you create. And as a result, if you want to increase your mindset, you focus on increasing your mindset, meaning you got to change what you focus on. Are you focusing on the negative, the unfulfilling, the unhappy, the wasteful aspects of life? Or are you focusing on the positive, the fulfilling, the wholesome? Whatever you think is, define it, act upon it, engage it, make it be. So if you want to change perspective, you want to change mindset, you want to grow, think it.
I love it. But where can they find you on social? What's the easiest way for anybody listening to find, reach out, converse with you?
I'm on Instagram. I don't even remember what my handle is. Shows you how much I care about that. Not that I don't care about it. It's just I don't remember my name on a lot of things.
Pretty sure it's V Fralof.
It might be.
We're going to look it up really fast.
Yes, we are, because I never remember these things. Like my Facebook is different because of my name. Yeah, it's V Fralof. So VFRALOF.
Look at that. I remembered that.
Yes, you did. Good
Mine
job.
is Mr. Brad Draper on all social media handles. Reach out to me. Leave me a review. Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Google is leaving, for those that don't know. I just learned this on the Ed Milet podcast.
Really?
Google's podcasts are leaving. So they said you can find us on other things. You can find your favorite podcasts on other streaming services like Spotify and Apple and Amazon and iHeartMedia and all these other places. Just not Google in the next few months.
We're going to short Google
That's right.
stock.
We're going to short Google. Leave me a review. Until next week, like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until then, we love you guys. Bye.